mamas. Welcome back to another episode of Badass Mama Moves. This is your fellow badass mama, Yara, over here. And I hope your day is going amazing. But it's time to kind of wind down a little bit and sit on the couch, put your legs up or whatever, but get cozy because today we're talking about something that hits home for a lot of us. But you know what? Before we dive in, I feel like I should reintroduce myself for those who don't know me and for those who are tuning in for the very first time. And if you are, welcome. Welcome to the Badass Movement. So, my name is Yara Ortiz. I am a single mama, a survivor of a toxic relationship with a narcissist, a speaker, author, TV host, financial consultant, master personal financial coach. I am the owner and CEO of BCS, Bookkeeping Consulting Services, and founder of Money Moves with Yara. And I would love to connect with you. You can find me on Facebook as Yara N. Ortiz. Now, let's get down to business. Let's talk about something that really hits home for a lot of us, and that is raising a son when the father is absent or toxic. So, yeah, this one right here is layered, it's deep, and it's personal. Whether that man walked out, faded away, or stayed but only brought pain because of his toxic behavior, that the effects run deep, and not just for us but for our sons too. I know this path very well because I am on it right now. Raising my son solo and navigating how to raise a good man when he didn't have one to learn from, that right there is some scary shit. I have my oldest brother, I have my dad. Absolutely, I've been blessed by them because of that, but there's no man in the house, so it's different, right? Because regardless, they have their own lives, their own businesses, but they're there. Yes, absolutely, but a man in the house, it makes a difference. Let's talk about it for a bit. Because this isn't just about diapers, changing diapers or drop offs. It's about the emotional weight too. There's a stat I read recently that one in four children in the U.S. live with our father in the home. That's nearly 18 million kids. Can you believe that? That's crazy. And if you're raising a son, you know the heartbreak of watching your boy crave for something that it just isn't there. That yearning, that confusion, that the need for answers you can't always give. This also affects somehow, some way their hearts, their self-worth, their sense of identity. I'll never forget the day my son asked me, maybe more than once, why daddy is like that? Does he care about me? That hit me like a ton of bricks because how do you answer that when you don't even fully understand it yourself? How do you protect his heart while trying to keep your own from breaking? My son witnessed the emotional and psychological abuse his dad had towards me. And he was affected too, directly and indirectly, because he feared his dad. He didn't want to be alone with him. And I didn't trust him alone with my son either. Every time we used to, he felt like he was going to see his dad, he would get nervous and he would ask me, Mommy, are you staying? Like, are you staying with us? Because he just didn't want to be alone with him. There were many times that I had to swallow tears, hold back the scream in my chest, and somehow come up with an answer that wouldn't shatter him while still being real with him. Because one thing I can tell you is that I never lied to my son. I just had to share what I could based on where he was and his level of maturity. Age appropriate truth. That was my compass. As he kept growing and asking questions, I would just answer his with honesty and no hiding, no lies, just real, but again, sharing according to his age and level of maturity. Now that he's almost 18, our conversations have gone to a whole other level. He's pretty much an adult now. So we talk straight up. He sees things more clearly. He understands for sure. He connects, the dots I didn't even point out. And even now, with all the healing we've done and gone through, there are moments when that question still lingers. Did he care about me? That question never gets easier, and as a mom, it hurts. Of course, it hurts because uh, to see your child question if they were ever important to someone who was supposed to love them unconditionally, it brings up guilt and grief, even when it wasn't your fault. There's still that ache and that pain. I've learned though that, and I want you to hear me as well, as I'm sharing with you, Mama, that your love, your consistency, your presence makes a world of difference. Even when it feels like it's not enough, it is. You are showing up, and that's what matters most. Let's just talk about this whole he needs a man in his life thing. Listen, I get where it comes from. Absolutely, yeah, I get it. But boys need guidance. They need models. They do not need toxic masculinity, though. They don't need silence, coldness, or chaos just because it came from someone with the title of dad. And it sure as hell doesn't have to come from someone with a narrow mindset who thinks boys shouldn't cry or be sensitive just because they are male, because they are boys. Men are human too. They have feelings that have the right to cry as well, right? Presence is not the same as impact. Just because someone shares DNA does not mean they get to shape your child's spirit. Hell no. Let me be real for a second here. I've seen too many women invite men into their lives out of loneliness, out of wanting that father figure role filled, only to end up exposing their children to verbal abuse and control and manipulation, or even worse. And sometimes it ain't even that they don't know better, it's that they choose not to do better. Some women get so caught up in being wanted as a woman that they forget they are mothers first. And I say that with love. I say this with love, no judgment, because I've had to check myself too. But when your desire to be loved comes before your child's emotional safety, sister, that's not love. That's pain masked on a choice. You got to protect your babies at all costs. No man in this world is worth the emotional damage your child might carry for life. I've seen uncles, coaches, teachers, mentors step in and make a difference. I've seen single mamas raise kings because they taught their sons what integrity looks like, what consistency means, what love should feel like. Let's redefine it. Fatherhood is not biology, it's commitment. It's emotional availability. It's showing up on the good days, the hard days, the harder days, very hard days too. And if they couldn't give that, that's not on you. That's not on your child. It's on them. Period. Now let me give you a quick mama tip. Be intentional with who your son sees as a role model. Don't just let any man into your life or your child's life because he seems nice, because he has a good job, or because he says all the right things. Bullshit. No. Watch how he treats people. Watch how he handles anger. Watch how he treats his mother, the waitress at the restaurant, how he takes on your child's feelings, how he behaves indoors when nobody's watching, and how he behaves outdoors when the world is watching. That's a real test right there. Know how he talks, know how he acts when he thinks no one's watching. Us moms, when we are looking for our person, our partner, we need to do our homework and put on that detective hat, because I went through freaking hell with a narcissistic man, and I am sure not putting myself or my son in that situation again. Hell fucking no. Protect your peace, protect your child's emotional safety, and remember that you don't need a man to raise a man. You just need to raise him with truth, with love, and a whole lot of intention. Be intentional about it. Now, let's talk about masculinity. The healthy kind, of course. Let's be honest, the world teaches our boys to be hard, to man up, to don't cry, don't feel, don't talk. Like, what the heck? Are they robots? No. That's how we end up with broken men raising broken boys in the first place. I share with my son that being a man isn't about hiding your feelings, it's about handling them. I want him to know it's okay to be gentle, it's okay to cry, it's okay to say, I need a minute, instead of bottling everything up until it turns into a rage. Because when we teach boys to suppress instead of express, that's a time bomb waiting to explode. Because sooner or later it will explode. And it's not gonna be only him who's gonna get hurt. Everyone else around him too. Strength starts with self-awareness. So many of these toxic men we talk about, there were once little boys who weren't allowed to cry or to ask for help. They were told that softness was weakness. So now they don't know how to love. They don't know how to apologize, how to hold space for someone else's feelings, because that's not a man thing. But guess what? We're breaking that cycle. One conversation at a time, one hug at a time, one moment where we tell our boys, you're safe to feel at a time. And it's not going to be easy because of the world we're in, but we're breaking the cycles for sure, period. So let us marinate on all of this while we go on a quick commercial break. And I see you in a minute.
Thank you for watching Prospera TV Network. We hope you're enjoying the show. We'll be right back after this commercial break.
All right, Mama, we're back and we are diving right back in. So let's talk about something that I wish, and I surely wish, was being taught in every home, in every school, and in every conversation when it comes to raising boys. And that is emotional intelligence. Not just book smarts, not just how to throw a ball, build a resume, or grill a burger, right? I'm talking about the ability to recognize, to understand, and manage your emotions. And to do the same when engaging with other people's emotions. Because trust me, this is just as important as reading, learning how to read, and math, and learning math. And honestly, maybe even more. Because here's the thing, academics might help them pass a test, but emotional intelligence, that helps them pass through life. It helps them become healthy communicators, compassionate partners, better friends, stronger leaders. Now, think about this. When our boys learn to name their emotions instead of acting them out, when they know how to pause before reacting, how to express themselves without aggression, when they understand their own boundaries and learn how to respect other people's boundaries, that's real growth. That's real strength, and that's an emotionally intelligent boy. That's the stuff that builds good men, not just grown boys with facial hair. And here's the part, that might be hard to hear, but so necessary. It starts at home. It starts with us. It starts with you, Mama, because our sons, they're always watching, always. We need to keep that in mind. They watch how we respond when life knocks us down. When they watch how we handle stress, how we talk to ourselves when we mess up, how we treat other people when we are angry. They watch how we process disappointment. If we shut down, if we open up, they see it all. We need to keep that in mind. They are sponges. And even when we think they're not paying attention, they are. And everything we model becomes a part of their blueprint for how to move in this world as they grow. So it's not just about telling them how to act, it's about showing them. We can't say, use your words while we are throwing shade or screaming into the void. We can't tell them calm down when we never breathe through our own emotions. They need to see us feel it, sit with it, name it, and then move through it with intention. As we also have to create that space, a safe space, not just physically safe, but emotionally safe space where they're allowed to cry, talk about what's going on in their heads and going through their heads and their hearts without fear of being labeled as weak or dramatic or being a man. A space where they don't get told to man up or toughen up. Men don't cry. Men freaking cry. They're humans who feel just like any other human being. Because tough doesn't mean silent. Strong doesn't mean numb. Let that sink in for a second. If all they are ever taught is to bury their feelings, then guess what? That is just a ticking bomb waiting to explode, like I said before. And it will. They become men who explode later, men who lash out, who isolate, men who hurt people because they were never taught, how to heal themselves. But when we make room for our boys to feel, to cry, to ask questions, to say I'm hurt or even I'm scared, that's when they learn how, that emotions are human. They're not weaknesses. And that's the kind of men this world needs more of. Not the emotionally unavailable ones, not the violent ones, not the ones who think expressing love makes them soft, but whole men. Men who can love deeply and speak kindly, listen fully, walk through life with self awareness and empathy. And I'm not just saying this of emotion. This is backed by facts. Studies show that emotionally intelligent children, they have better grades, stronger friendships, lower level of anxiety and depression, and more resilience when life gets hard. And that's what we want, right? We don't want robots. We not hard shells walking around with unspoken pain. We're not raising soldiers. We're raising sons. Sons who are whole and healed and emotionally grounded. So mama, let's just keep asking those check-in questions like how are you today? How are you feeling? Keep modeling vulnerability even when it's uncomfortable. Let them see you cry sometime. Let them hear you say, I messed up. Oh my God, like how let me fix this. I'm learning through this. Let me just do it different this time. Because when you show up like that, you're not just parenting, you're giving your child permission to be fully human. You don't need to get it perfect. You just have to be present. You just have to keep it real. And that right there, that's the move. Let's bring this back home as we wrap up, Mama. Let's talk legacy. Let's talk about what it means to break cycles and be the first in line to say this pain, this pattern, it stops with me. Because that's what we are. We are cycle breakers. What we didn't get, what we're choosing to give. What hurts us, we're learning to heal. The silence, the coldness, the emotional neglect, the judgment, we're not handing that down. We are rewriting the story. One choice at a time, one conversation at a time. If we didn't grow up hearing I love you or I miss you, you're amazing, you're doing great, I'm proud of you, then we say it. And we say it often. Not just when our sons do something right, not just when they bring home an A grade or score a goal, but because they exist, because they matter, because they are worthy of love without conditions, without performance. And if we didn't grow up in a space where we were allowed to express ourselves, to be vulnerable, or even just be, without walking on eggshells, then guess what? We create that space now for them, for their future. We become the safe space. We become the open door, the soft landing, the trusted voice, the shoulder they know they can fall into anytime. As a boy, as a grown ass man, anytime, without fear, without shame, period. And yes, I know it's hard because when you didn't have the blueprint, when no one modeled this for you, own heart is still healing, it's hard to know how to build something new because change is not easy. When you break in cycle, it's not easy. But that's exactly what we're doing. We are laying the bricks. We are writing the manual as we go, and we are becoming the blueprint. We are mothering not just our children, but the parts of ourselves that never got what we needed. And it's messy and it's painful, and sometimes it feels like too much, of course, overwhelming, but it is so worth it. Because here's the vision, and I want you to really envision it. One day, maybe years from now, our sons will be holding their own children, and will look at them in their eye without hesitation and say, I love you, son. I love you, my daughter, my princess. I'm proud of you. You can always come to me. And they won't flinch. They won't freeze. They won't hold back because it will be natural for them. It will be normal. It will be rooted because you show them how. Because you love them through your own healing. Because you made the choice to do it differently. And that moment right there, that is the fruit. That is the proof. That's the legacy. That's when we'll know we didn't just survive, we transformed, we elevated the standard to a whole other fucking level. We shifted the bloodline. That right there, that's generational healing emotion in action, like right there. So if no one told you lately, let me say it again. You are doing holy work. You are changing lives. You're not behind. You're not too late. You're just right on time. So let's keep planting those seeds always, even if we don't see the harvest yet, because the next generation will bloom from our boldness. And always remember that. We need to remember that. And we did that, Mama. You did that. I know this journey you're on because I am in it as we speak, raising a son, a young adult, boy, man, without the emotional, spiritual, and physical support of a healthy father figure. It's one of the hardest things a woman can do, a single mama can do. And I want you to hear me clearly. It doesn't mean you are broken. It doesn't mean you are damaged. It doesn't mean your child is doomed or missing out on love. No. What it makes you, though, is bold. It makes you brave. It makes you a damn warrior. Because every single day you're doing the job of two, sometimes more. You're holding down the fort. You're the nurturer and the disciplinarian. You're setting boundaries while making breakfast. You're doing the emotional labor, the financial juggling, the mental coaching, and still showing up with grace and love in your heart. So, girl, that is not easy. That is not average either. Hell no. That is supernatural strength, emotion. Like, hello. And all while carrying your own wounds, maybe from childhood, maybe from that toxic relationship, maybe from constantly pouring out and feeling like no one's ever pouring back into you, but still you show up, right? Because that's what we do. You show up. We show up for our children. You show your children what it looks like to love through the wounds, to grow through the cracks, to stand tall even when the ground beneath you shook like freaking hell, and you didn't fall apart, even when you felt like it and wanted to just quick and just throw the towel, right? Even when you sat in your car and cried your ass off before walking back into the house to make dinner, like then like nothing happened. Even when you were the only one at parent night, when you had to explain again and again and again why their father didn't go or didn't show up, even when your heart broke, you didn't let it break your spirit. And that is not weakness, mama. That is power. Because what we are doing, what you're doing, what we are all doing is rewriting our family story in real time. We are creating new templates from scratch. We're building homes where love is not earned, it's given. Where apologies are modeled, where emotions are allowed, where our kids don't have to recover from their upbringing. That's not just parenting, that's healing generations. And listen, I know I can feel lonely. Trust me, I know. There are days you feel invisible, unseen, exhausted, so freaking overwhelmed, and your mind is racing and you're just wondering if you're messing it all up. If you wonder if you are a good mom, ask yourself if you're enough. You wonder if your child will ever understand what it took. Listen, I know this is some of the racing thoughts that go through my mind all the time. But one day they will. They will understand, they will get it, right? And when they do, it's gonna hit different. So to every mama out there doing double duty, triple duty, and then some, to the mama who is holding it down, holding it together, and holding onto your faith, even when you feel like letting go, I want you to hear me loud and clear. Like, I see you, I feel you, I am you. We're living it together, we're in this together. We are the whole damn village. So let's keep building each other up. Let's keep breaking chains and planting new seeds. Let's keep walking through the fire and walking like the three Hebrew boys, walking out like the three Hebrew boys. Not burn, no smoke, shining with a more light than ever. You don't have to do it perfectly. You just have to do it with love and intention. We need to be intentional. And girl, you're already doing that. So until next time, mama, stay grounded, stay fierce, and let's keep making those badass mama moves. See you in the next one.
This is your Prospera era, where dreams align with grace, abundance flows like rivers. You've stepped into your place. Rise, reign, and remember, you were born to shine. Welcome to your moment, Prospera, it's time. We hope you enjoyed today's show on Prospera TV Network. Make it a point to visit us on YouTube and catch all your favorite shows anytime you want. Interested in hosting a show of your own? Or advertising your business on our network? Contact Elena Rodriguez.